and welcome to session 2 of C.S. Lewis in Film and Literature. There is a fair amount to cover this time because we have some discussions, and I feel like those discussions are a little bit difficult if you haven't read the various people's works. And since I had not read some of those works before I approached this class, I feel like we're all in that same boat of not really knowing what that person is intending with the quotes that we have chosen. So I want to give us some ideas and feedback to really explore that. And Professor Wiggins is here to help us with his snores. So apologies for that soundtrack in the back. So here are the concepts, the discussion topics for this particular week. We are looking to discuss how Lewis sees the Christian faith and communicates it with his audience. We want to identify how Lewis's personal conversion and life experience may have colored how he perceived and communicated Christianity. And we want to identify and discuss the main themes and ideas. So our short paper is going to be tackling some of the things we haven't read for this particular session and exploring them on our own. So our reading assignments are to look at Mere Christianity. We want to look at books 2 and 4. All of book 2, but part of book 4. And then with McGrath, we're looking at chapters 8, 9, and 10. So we're really getting to know who Lewis is as an apologist and what he does sort of after. Our assignments are to share in a discussion about theology, which is the discussion I want to go over with more care. And then we want to submit a chapter summary and share some insights into a section of Mere Christianity that we haven't read. So you may have noticed that it's split into books, so books 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that those are then in chapters. So we're just looking for one of those small chapters, and there's a full list available to you of the ones we haven't read so that you can pick from them. And we're going to, again, look ahead. So we tend to do that in this class to prepare us because we're going to need to get a copy of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe to watch. And we have one specific version for all of us to watch. Theology. So here's our discussion point. We share a quote and some ideas from Frederick Beuchner. And I think it's really important because I hadn't experienced his work before this class to sort of explore it in a little bit of detail, because I feel like if we just take one quote from a person, we don't really know what direction that person is coming at those ideas from. And so we're going to look first at this quote, and there are links as well for you to go explore more of his work, and then we're going to look at some of his work to really expand on these concepts. So he's writing this in 82. It's much more contemporary to us than the 50s and 40s. And he says, at its heart, most theology, like most fiction, is essentially autobiographical. What a theologian is doing is essentially examining, as honestly as he can, the rough and tumble of his own experience, with all its ups and downs, and mysteries and loose ends, and expressing in logical, abstract terms the truth about human life and about God that he believes he has found implicit there. And our question becomes, would C.S. Lewis agree with Beuchner's observation? Do you agree with it? Why or why not? Consider your reading of Mere Christianity and what you have learned of Lewis's life. So we often end up talking about, how much of theology is autobiography, and what sort of connections are we making there? It feels a little surprising and strange at first. So let's go see a little bit about Beuchner and why he may have been saying this. So he, like Lewis, wrote fiction and nonfiction. And some of his items, for instance, here the Beuchner Speaker Series at King College in Bristol, Tennessee, is dedicated to him and exploring the intersections and collisions of faith and culture that define our times. There are 7 major themes in his writing. So if you do a search of Frederick Beuchner and you go to his website, you're going to find more information about all of these ideas. Some themes that he writes about, so have your listening ears on to ask whether or not you think these are things Lewis also wrote about. Listening to your life, faith despite doubt, hope through grace, searching for meaning, our shared story as human beings, the meaning of Christian as a word, as an idea, and sinners as saints. So as you look at what Lewis is sharing, both through Mere Christianity and through McGrath's exploration of Lewis's life, do you see similar themes in relation to Beuchner? I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. My apologies. As we explored Lewis in session 1, we found ourselves really viewing his story, his life, his childhood, his family, his profession, his marriage. We're going to keep doing that because we're going to look at A Grief Observed, where we look at his response to the death of his wife. Well, we would probably not say, let me tell you about God. I was born in 1979. In a sense, that's what we're doing. So that would be really autobiographical, wouldn't it? Like, let me tell you about God, and then I'm going to talk about me. But we are looking at a person's life and seeking the connections that are generally only visible in hindsight. As we look back on our lives, we see these steps, these places God has put us in and brought us through. If you revisit getting to know you and the different conversations we've had about our lives and our relationship with Lewis and our ideas about faith, you'll often see that we are speaking about God, but we view it through our own lens. Beuchner is saying here, at its heart, most theology is essentially autobiographical. It's this idea of trying to express these logical, abstract truths, and truth is a key word there, through our own lens. Because do we have any other lens? Am I able to see life through your eyes, through anyone's eyes? Or am I only able to see it through myself and then from there attempt to share and explore? Tim O'Brien, who is a Vietnam veteran, a Purple Heart recipient, and author, he writes fiction and nonfiction. He says that's what fiction is for. It's for getting at the truth when the truth isn't sufficient for the truth. In this case, I'm reminded of a scene that he paints of an intense scenario, a series of happenings that are overwhelming and painful. And at the end of that story, of sharing those experiences, this fictionalized story, O'Brien has the sun rise. And a sunrise, it washes us, it cleanses us, it brings new hope, a new dawn, as it were. And later, O'Brien says, well, of course, that's not how it really happened. All of these terrible things happened, and these intense, passionate moments, and then it was still night. Nothing, no new day broke to cleanse my epiphanies or to bring a conclusion to a terrible scene. No, in fact, some of those people died, and life was so different every day after. But what we do in stories is that we bring all of that intensity of life and reality into one beautiful, compact vessel. And so O'Brien tends to write his real stories as fiction because he can add the breaking of the dawn to a fictional story. When we look at this question, would Lewis agree with this observation? Would Lewis agree with the idea that we talk about God through a lens of ourselves because we don't really have another lens? We talk about God through the lens of a story that we've read in the Bible because what other lens do we have to make these connections? Is my perception of the truth, does it alter the truth? I would say not, but it is the only way I have to express that truth and that reality. So consider your own life and how you share with other people, how you express the things that have happened, the things that you see as happening for you in the future, the things God has done with, for, through, and to you. And then ask what kind of story that is. If you are going to tackle your chapter summary, some examples to start picking from is that we have read, let's see, we have not read these. We have not read book 1, chapters 1 or 2. We have not read book 3, chapters 1 through 12, so you have lots of choices. We have not read book 4, chapters 1 through 7, and we have not read book 4, chapters 9 through 11. And so that gives you a fairly wide possibility of works to look at. We have read the preface, the foreword, and these selections from books 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 4, not in book 3. So hopefully that will help you choose. So, what does it look like when we write this chapter summary? In this sample, I give you a title page up here and reference page down below, and then I give you some ideas for how to start. So, for instance, you may want to share what chapter you have picked and what inspired or encouraged you to choose it. Then perhaps you want a thesis along the lines of the three elements from chapter 1 that I found most interesting are X, Y, and Z. And then X, Y, and Z become your paragraph sections. Or on a personal level, the three areas that impacted me were A, B, and C. You may want to summarize your selection, the main theme, significant quotes, and then share within this section that these are the particular ways that it supported and encouraged you. And in the conclusion, we want to do things like restate our thesis, restate our key points, and conclude with an action or desired outcome, or perhaps an epiphany of what we have learned from sharing and exploring. So these are a couple of different ways to start thinking about it. Consider what works best for you. As you can see, I have different things where I say or, choose that, or, and I just hope that it is a guideline just to engage you if you don't have ideas. If you are looking at any assignment and you feel ready to go and you feel like you understand it and are ready to tackle it, then I encourage you to do that. If you ever feel like you're not quite sure, then please don't hesitate to check out examples in the student lounge and get some support. And of course, we're preparing for session 3, which means we are going to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and we are going to watch The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I encourage everyone to take this opportunity to include those around you. It's a great opportunity to watch a film with your family or your friends and to share that experience, because it is a lot of fun to watch a great story, and then that can also be a great jumping off point for some of the discussion points for session 3. This is not due until session 3, but it is a good idea to start planning how you're going to get a copy and to reach out for suggestions from your classmates. So I hope you have fun exploring session 2. There are so many exciting ways to think about what Lewis and Beuchner are sharing, and I hope that you enjoy sharing your ideas and perceptions about those concepts.